All right, everybody, welcome to the FFL USA podcast. This is Trey Honeycutt. I get to be your guest host this week, and I'm super excited because we have a very special guest with us, Miss Cassandra. I see I messed it up. We planned it beforehand. I'm like, Cassandra, is it Cassandra or Cassandra? It's Cassandra Carter. Cass Carter, yep. But Carter with a D, though.
Yeah.
Now that's unique.
Yes, yeah. I've been correcting people my whole life. C-A-R, D as in dog, E-R.
Nice.
Yes.
So it's like my name's Trey, and I always say Trey like a food tray, T-R-A-Y, because everybody wants to spell it different. So
T-R-E-Y.
that's how everybody wants to do it.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Well, I'm really excited to be here recording a podcast with you. I remember when I first started, just in the car, listening to you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, putting me in a good mood.
Well, that's important. Your mindset in the business matters a lot, you know.
Mindset is everything.
Go into an appointment with the baggage from the last appointment. That's the quickest way to get messed up.
Totally.
Like they said no, let's just move on.
Yeah, well, I was listening to another podcast, and they were saying, it's not fair to the client to go into it with whatever. Because if you did well in a home and you go into it and you just made through, this person gets it, but they need it too. They need you to push for them just like you pushed in that last home. Or if you did bad, they expect the best out of you still when your last appointment didn't go well.
Well, that's a true perspective, but not everybody puts it in that sense. It's usually like you had a bad day and the last one you show up and it goes great. But what if you've had a great day and you don't want to go to the last one and that's the last one that actually needed the most help?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a great attitude.
So I always go. Even if I'm an hour late or whatever's going on, I always go to my last appointment, all my appointments.
Well, last week I was talking to Andrew about that. He had a death claim from a client that he'd written around Christmas. And he had reflected back on how, he really didn't have to go to the appointment. He was doing fine financially, but he had it. He wasn't in a place of desperation in his business at all, but he was just fulfilling his obligation and going out there and seeing people.
Yeah.
And he had a death claim from somebody that bought, 2 days before Christmas one year. So interesting.
Wild. Super wild. I had a client, and when I first started, I think it was like 2 months in, and we did the policy in his truck.
Nice.
And he called me when they took the money. He was like, I don't want this. Like, no. And I said, look, you didn't have any coverage. You have a house and a daughter. Get your policy in the mail. We'll review it together. If you really don't want it, after we review it, you can cancel. But I want you to know what it does.
Mm-hmm.
And he died 6 months later. He's 45.
Wow. But he kept it.
Kept it because I went out there and I went the extra mile to make sure that he kept it.
Yeah. Well, good for you. And that really, you came out of the gate just, it seems like, for people that don't know, from the very beginning. I remember when I first met you, I was with Sean, and Sean goes, what about you? How much you sell?
That's my best. Bus.
Yeah. You're like, it's like.
And he goes, okay.
That's right. Everybody else was like, oh God, well, don't ask me.
well, he was like asking around. He goes, well, how much do you sell? I don't even think I said it. I think someone else said it for me. And he goes, okay. Wasn't expecting that.
But right out of the gate, you did that. So just getting started, reflecting back on what that looked like for you, how did you end up having so much success so quickly?
Well, I think I allowed myself to gain momentum, and that's big, huge, and not being scared of anything. I just went into it, and I was just thinking, if it sucks, it sucks. We're going to learn from it. If it's great, then cool, I'll learn from that. And I had zero ego, and I still don't care. Mm-hmm. I don't care if I, mess something up and I talk to somebody about it, then I learn from it. And I think that that's how I got good so fast, because I was just talking to anybody that I could get my hands on. Because nobody goes into this business knowing anything.
That's true.
I did my first 200 dials. I booked 2 appointments.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you kept going. Look out.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's such a great point. Nobody comes into this business knowing anything.
No.
That's the one thing we all have in common is we all had to start. There was a time when Sean Mike was unlicensed and had to go pass the test.
Exactly. And I think just getting over that, well, I think it's information overload. You just need to jump.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of just jumping. Like, I don't know what's in there, but I'm going to jump in there and I'm going to sink or swim.
Yeah.
That's how you got to do this business. You got to jump.
Yeah. That's awesome. And no good, no bad, just learning.
Learning. Yeah. And I've had really bad days in the field. I've had really good days in the field. But it all equals out to better than what I was doing previous.
What were you doing?
I was personal training at a high-end gym, and I was working a lot, and I was also bartending. I've done so many other jobs.
Were you bartending at the gym? Because that'd be really high end.
I think that'd be a conflict of interest.
Yeah, definitely good. Well, hey, at Planet Fitness, they give you candy when you leave, by the way.
No, I was actually, am I allowed to say the name of the gym?
I don't know. I just threw that out there, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, and I was bartending until like 3 or 4 in the morning, getting up and training people at like 7, sometimes 6. So I was not sleeping, and I was not making that much money, and I was hustling. So when I found something that I could actually hustle and get, it was over. I was like, wait a second. I can put in the same hours. I'm still hustling, but I'm in those previous industries.
Right. And, the big difference is here you're self-employed. There's nobody that's going to fire you if you don't show up. Or was that a big transition? Or that's probably the biggest hurdle that people have to overcome. It's like they have a job, they'll work 80 hours a week for them because they don't want to lose their job. But then they go into self-employment with Family First Life and there's nobody, looking over your shoulder telling you what to do.
Well, I just asked somebody, what are you scared of? Because I'm scared of not being able to support a future family that I'll have. And I want to support my mom when she gets older. And I'm scared of not having the availability to do that. So you just got to ask yourself, what are you scared of?
That's a great question to ask yourself.
Yeah, because fear is really motivating.
Heck yeah, it is. Well, I think I've been talking to people that way for a while. Maybe I use different terms. Like a lot of people say you got to focus on your why in the business. And with new people, I always focused about like, why not? Like, what if you don't do it? What's going to happen? And sometimes that's freaking pretty scary.
Exactly.
But then once you get momentum, like what you have, because there's an interesting place in this business where like your back's against the wall and you got to make something happen. And people tend to do okay there. Well, what happens when you have like money in the bank and
that's also hard. And I just recently went through a lull like that where I was producing the least that I ever produced, but I wasn't hurting for money. So I was like not super motivated. And then I took a step back and I was like, hey, you're not done yet. Like you are at the very baby stages of building your organization. And if you take the foot off the gas, that's it. It's going to die. And all that work that you've put in for the last year is worthless.
Yeah, that's true. And I think Sean Mike always called that a healthy paranoia. The first person I ever heard say that was Matt Smith. And he said, I have this healthy paranoia that it could go away.
Yeah.
And that's a good place to be, actually.
It really is, yeah. And now I'm back. I'm backing in.
So there's 2 points I have to back up to that there. Because when I was like, what's a bad month for you? That was low for you. And so you're competing against yourself, being honest with yourself. Like, what can Cassandra do?
Yeah.
And when you're not giving it your all, that's when you know you're off.
Yeah.
That's important. How much of this business is really just competing against yourself and holding yourself accountable and holding yourself to a standard?
It's all you against you. You should never, and I've fallen into that trap of comparing because this business is just wild.
Yeah, it is.
Like I'm in the very baby stages of building an agency and, some people come in and they build Dave Wichard. what was that? He built
Yeah.
it in less than a year. Gosh. See, that's the thing. If I, compare myself to him, it's like feel real sorry for myself.
Me too.
I mean, he's just a monster in the business. But I think being thankful for where I came from, because when I did those 200 dials, to see myself where I am now, I would have killed to be in the shoes that I'm in right now, and to have the opportunity to come here and to speak to you and to speak to Andrew and learn from you guys is really incredible.
Well, the other thing you said that was really interesting was you have 2 full-time staff now,
Yes.
and that pressure to be able to provide and support and pay your employees, that's setting up a game that you can win. Most people are afraid to put themselves in that situation because they're just afraid to do that. But that's a big key to the business, is always stretching outside your comfort zone and putting things in place that don't allow you to go backwards,
I wasn't ready to hire my admin when I hired her financially, but I did it anyways.
Nice.
And then I made the money that week to pay her.
That's right.
And then when I brought on my recruiter, I wasn't in a better financial situation, but I was like, should I do it? Should I not do it? And you should do it. I mean, and if it doesn't work out, great learning experience. So you've touched the stove, so your agents that are coming on can learn not to touch the stove like you touch the stove.
Yeah.
And burn yourself.
So when you were going through that process of hiring somebody, like, did you, pull out a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle and be like, here's the pros, here's the cons? And
nope. I just started making a crap ton of phone calls on ZipRecruiter, calling people. And, when you jive with somebody, like, hire someone you like. Hire someone you really want to work with and build, because I'm investing my knowledge, my money, and time into my admin and into my recruiter, because I want them to grow too. Like, what do they want? So I think that when you find somebody you can jive with, that's when you should hire them, and when you see that they're hungry. Because they might not have the skill set just yet, but if they're hungry, they're going to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super important. Somebody you actually like.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure you won't make this mistake. A lot of people make this mistake on their own. Probably my first 3 or 4 admins, I'd hire them and let them go real quick, because I'm like, I made a mistake. This is not the right, I messed up.
I fired one of my recruiters. I'm on my second one.
Good for you.
Yeah. I was like, darn it.
So if any managers are out there thinking, should I let this person go? Or that's sort of a skill set too. Like, going through the process of being able to be like, all right, they're not happy, I'm not happy, I'm doing them a favor. They're not happy doing what they're doing. They're not doing a good job. And
it's not your job to employ people. It's people's jobs to be employed and do a good job.
Right.
That's a big thing that I learned. And might sound a little harsh, but you're in a business. This is not personal. And that's another thing that I had to let go of, is taking everything. Like, I care so much. And
you and me both. Oh, my goodness.
and I was getting walked all over, and I was like, okay, I need to not do that.
Good for you. Well, you're learning quick. There you go. That's awesome. So as far as your agency goes, you guys are growing.
Yep.
Now, you had confided and said, there was about a 90-day period where you kind of staying the same. And so what's changed over that 90 days where you guys have really gotten some good momentum and traction now?
So I was pushing and doing so many interviews with people, and I was just trying to hire everyone. And now I'm grilling people on the phones when I hire them. Like, this is going to be really tough. This is going to be really hard work. You're going to be in the car for 12 hours on your field days. You're going to be on the phone all day from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. You have to buy leads. You have to invest money in leads, because this is your business. You're starting a business. Is that something that you want? So getting really aggressive on the phones when I'm interviewing people. I mean, I kind of acclimate to their personality.
Right.
I'm not too harsh when they're a little bit softer. I kind of have to bring them out. But if they're, I just want to see where they're at. Because you're either hiring your problem or you're hiring a solution.
Amen to that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's been helpful, and just consistently moving forward, trying to grow. And I think my business is about to have a big pop.
I think so too. You know, if I were to categorize the business building philosophies that are necessary, that philosophy of being selective is a major part of building a great business, because when people think you're being selective, they want to be the person that you select. And when you set proper expectations, people want to rise to them. Mm-hmm. The trap is like hiring everybody that'll fog a mirror. Like, don't, that's not a good thing to do.
No, I've hired some pain in the butts.
Right. And they're independent.
Yeah.
So I'm hiring a bunch of people that aren't acting like they're independent.
No.
Let's stop that before it starts.
Exactly. Totally.
So you're doing some really good things. What are some words of advice that you could give people that are, you know, starting to sell at a high level and maybe they're apprehensive about building the business? What caused you to go from just, I just want to sell a lot, to I actually want to build something solid that...
Yeah. So for the first year, I was really concerned with just selling. I was like, I want to sell. And I got really good at selling. And it's lonely by yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you have to deal with a lot of stuff. And when you build a business, and if I'm not working, I'm not making money, right? Like when you're just selling. But when you build an organization, you teach other people to sell at a high level, and I can't go in the field because I broke my leg or something happens, then I'm still going to be okay for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
I 100% know what you mean. And the value of, like, this is, okay, so you've sold more in the field in a month than I have. But what I realized is the value in building a team is not everybody gets hit in the stomach at the same time. Sometimes 4 of them have really good weeks. And if I had a really bad week, like I'm driving home on a Saturday and 3 of my sales just canceled. Like, I'm like, thank God, you know, Bob had a great week this week. Everything's going to be okay.
Well, also when I'm having a bad field day, because I have them. I have field days where I go out there and I don't sell a thing. I drive around for 12 hours. I'm door knocking. Happens to me too. Happens to all of us that produce at a high level. We're not immune to that stuff. But when my agent calls me and they just said, oh my God, it fixes my whole mood. And
Yes.
my day doesn't even matter anymore. I get more excited when one of my new people, they make a sale and they're like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm like, I'm so excited too.
It's the most refreshing thing in the business. Like when I look at people that just sell and they don't have that experience, I'm like,
Missing out.
you guys are amazing. Like I couldn't do that without somebody on my team lifting me up. Now I wasn't telling them they were lifting me up. Like I wasn't never complaining about my problems to people.
Me either.
But if I'm getting on the phone and they're having a great experience and I'm like, dude, how could you not get excited about that? Like that gives me hope. I'm like, go Josh, go, you know?
Yep.
And yeah, so that's why everybody should be hiring. That's a great point.
And also I was hustling, like really hustling. I had a meal prep business. I was trying to do my own personal training business. I was bartending. I was doing all this stuff and making minimal money. And I just think of all the other people out there that are hustling like I was, and they don't know about this.
Right.
Like, what if they could put their energy towards this and really kill it just like I did?
Right. It's sort of like this magical place. I mean, so I went to this, we used to have these, I think they still call it this, Rising Stars meetings, okay? But the original Rising Stars meetings were at the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. And you would go, like the first couple, you go to Connecticut, and Sean would just be in there for like 4 hours, and he would just talk about all the stuff around the business that didn't really pertain to just the selling part of it.
Yeah.
And I remember this really vividly, because everybody in the room was younger, like younger than me. So I know, I'm 43. I know I look a lot younger.
Great hair.
Great. It's the gray hair, yeah. So most people don't think I look older. So I was in this appointment one time and the guy goes, you in Nam? And I'm like, Jesus, no, I wasn't in Nam. I'm not 76. You know, so, but anyway, I was one of the older people in the room, and Sean made this comment, and he goes, the thing that I realized that a lot of you don't realize. The other thing he said at the same meeting was, this could be the best business ever, or it could have you on your knees praying to God all the time. Please
Yeah.
help.
I tell people that when I'm interviewing them to hire them, I'm like, hey, this is a real business, and you'll get beat up if you don't take it seriously.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna take it seriously, do it. If not, then go get a job.
Go get a job. That's
Go
right.
get a job where you can work for somebody and you have a steady paycheck, because this is not that.
Yeah, that's true. And some people take offense. Like, I've told agents to say stuff like that. They're like, can you believe he told Bob to go get a job? Hey, look, it was the best thing for Bob.
Get a
Bob
part-time
has
job.
kids, get a part-time job, get some structure, get some stability, something. Like, I'm not just here. So I'm not trying to just have a bunch of disillusioned people stringing along with wrong expectations of what it's going to take to succeed and suffering. There's no need to have that.
That's super important
Yeah.
to sell a lot. So, you know, you can tell people like, hey, I'd love for you to come on,
That's right.
but I don't need you to come on. And I'm only telling you
Yes.
this because I want you to make money. That's the only reason I tell my agents when I bring them on, hey, I'm always going to be honest with you. I'm always going to be open with you. I'm going to break it down for you. And it's just because I want you to make money.
Okay. If we were to create an agent in a lab that could do this, like, it's you, Cassandra, seriously. Like, everything you're saying, like, my mind is getting blown because I'm thinking, God, forgot. That's what I should be doing too. That's brilliant. But that's so true.
Yeah, and you just gotta tell people straight up, like, the truth. Some people come on, they're like, oh, I want to quit my job and I want to do this. I'm like, no, I don't want you to quit your job. You don't even know if you're gonna be good at this. You
Right.
don't even know if you're gonna survive. I
Right.
mean, it's a simple business, but it's a tough business.
Yeah.
And I want people to know that, because they're going to know it regardless if you tell them at the beginning or they figure it out 3 weeks in and they're calling you because they can't pay their rent or they're getting their car repossessed. And I would take personal responsibility for that,
Right.
because I didn't tell you straight up what
The
you
truth.
needed to do to be successful.
That's exactly right. And listen, there's no shame in having a job and doing it part-time. That structure,
No.
because people
Right.
make this mistake of thinking, like, if I start here, I'm always going to be here. And it's a progressive business. We were talking about progression and regression. That's an interesting word. But but you want to start at the most regressive point possible, like what we were talking
Yes.
about. And when you have that structure of a job and all you could do is dial Thursday night to run on your Saturday day off, that's a blessing. That's not a curse. You know, you have the structure and stability of that job, and then you can go out and learn the trade on the weekends and not have
less
commission.
pressure.
Yes.
It's less pressure. And, you know, when I bring someone on, they're part-time, I'm like, okay, talk to me about your time availability. How much time do you have to give to a position like this? What does it look like for you? Someone tells me 10 hours. I'm like, don't do this.
So when you're having this conversation, is this after they've contracted or before you even send them contracting?
Before I send them contracting, before I get them enrolled in class, I'm having this conversation with them.
So what does that whole conversation look like? And then, so let's go through the structure of it. So if you're hiring me, let's say from the Facebook co-op that we do.
Sure.
So do you reach out to me? Does your recruiter, when do they touch base with you?
So usually I have my recruiter reach out and set up an interview. And my recruiter says, hey, you know, I'm so-and-so, and I'm going to set you up with a phone call with Cassandra. She's our agency manager. And if I sent you over a 20-minute long business overview video, when can you have it done by? If I would you. So I never send the video until I get a confirmation of the day and the time that they're going to have it done. That's big.
Mm-hmm.
So once that's all set up, then she'll put them on my calendar, and then I'll call them and I'll say, hey, I'm Cassandra Carter. How are you? Tell me a little bit about yourself. And, you know, I get to know them just a little bit for like a minute or two. And then I say, okay, you know, I'm assuming that you watched the video. If they didn't watch the video, I'll just say, hey, it's not worth it talking right now.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't watch the video. You didn't do what you said you were going to do. That's a problem.
right?
And
Plus, it messes up your cheek because then you got to go explain FFL for 20 minutes.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. When they could have just watched the video, it's really easy. And if someone really wants to do this, they're going to watch a video. That's so easy. If you can't watch a video,
Yeah.
you can't do this.
Yeah, the guy that came up with the idea to use that video to screen people was pretty brilliant, by the way.
Who was that?
I don't know.
Was it you?
It was me. Yeah, it was me.
It's so great. I didn't know that. But then I say, okay, if they watch the video, okay, great. You know, what are you looking to accomplish with Family First Life? What do you want to do?
Got it. And so my answer would be, you know, I want to get out of my job. I hate my job. I hate my boss. They cut back
Okay.
my hours.
Why do you hate them? Why do you hate your job? Like, what factors make you hate it?
Well, it's just unpredictable, you know, and
Predictable.
I just feel like I can never live up to the expectations. It's like they just keep putting more and more on me. You know, they get
Unpredictable how?
as far as like the workload and the hours and God, that's such a good question. I have to answer you. It's actually really good. You know, like the workflow and the hours, and I feel
Okay.
like, you know, they're just dangling my job in front of me, waiting to get rid of me for any little thing, and I'm just sort of burnt out with it, and I
Okay.
feel like I end up doing more and more work for less and less security.
Okay, so it's not the work that bothers you, it's the paid to work ratio that bothers you. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that is exactly what it is.
Understood. Okay. So you would like to get into Family First Life to make more money, or are you looking for a new career? What is that for you?
Both.
Both? Okay. So I expose like exactly why, kind of like when I'm pinpointing a why in the home for a
Yes.
client, I do the same thing with people.
Hmm.
I want to understand where they're coming from, and then wherever they're coming from, I can tailor, you know, my response in a way that's going to jive well with their brain. I'm always being honest with my answers. Okay, you don't like the work to pay ratio. In a year, I've been able to hire an admin and a recruiter by myself. I have zero background in the insurance industry, and it just comes from a willingness for me to work my butt off. So if you're working your butt off and you want to make more money, you can do that here.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what happens from there? I mean, are there more
Yeah.
questions or?
Yeah, so then I asked them, how many hours, logistics. What does it look like for you, for us to get you really started in this? How many hours are you working at your job? How many can you cut back on? Where can Family First Life logistically fit into your life? Because I want to know facts.
What
Like,
you're working with.
how can I make this work for you? And how can I problem solve your problem right now that you're coming to me with? Because you're on the phone with me because you have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
You don't like your job. You want me to help you fix it. That's why we're on the phone. So I'm really just trying to help them problem solve their situation.
Got it.
Yeah.
So we were talking earlier about your in-home, and you said, I give a lot of information on the in-home. And I thought, I don't. But doing this, like I've always told people that selling and hiring are two different skill sets, but you made that the same skill set. That's like
same.
what you do in the home, but I'm doing most of the talking, but you're looking for where my problem is and solving it with the solution.
Correct.
Huh.
Yeah.
That is good. That's really good.
Yes, I'm just pinpointing their problem because everybody has a problem. And if I can help them fix their problem, then, they're going to help me in return build my organization. I build them up. They build me up. It's a win-win.
And when you, the other thing I liked about what you said, so you're trying to figure out how it fits logistically. So then also like household income, is there a spouse that works?
Yeah, I also say, how much money do you need to make deposit in your bank account to make this work for you?
Got it.
Give me a number. Really. And
So
it's just persistence.
It really is. Now, here's what's interesting. So everybody always wants formulas for stuff,
Yeah.
like what's the conversion ratio on this type of lead and all this nonsensical
no
stuff.
idea.
I don't know either. But what's really interesting on the hiring side, I've heard it said a bunch of different times that it takes 25 writing agents to get to VP. That means you have a healthy blend of people that are writing that have been around,
Yeah.
and then brand new people that are Maybe a lot of them were part-time and they're writing a policy or two here or there. And dude, I started thinking about that, and I'm like, yeah, that's about right. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. You hire people that also hire other agents and get the ball rolling. So how many writing agents do you have right now?
Well, we have 17 that are contracted under me, and probably only 8 really write
Nice.
business, 8 or 9. And
That's good.
yeah, it is.
That's actually really good.
It's gonna get better. It's about to get better.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Now, as far as like, okay, so what were some challenges and mistakes that you feel like looking back you could have avoided in the process of getting people going? Aside from some of the stuff we've already talked about.
This. So I had an agent, and I'm not a hand holder. I don't like to hold people's hands. But because how I do things, I'm like, oh yeah, everybody does it like that. You know, if someone's having a big problem, like they're gonna come to me, because if I'm having a big problem financially, I'm gonna go to my upline and be like, hey, it's not working. What is going on? Because I'm not making it. And I had an agent, and they weren't making it, and they didn't tell me, and they didn't tell me, and they didn't tell me, and it went from a little problem to a big problem.
Right.
And that's a big mistake that I made when I first started hiring, is that I didn't explicitly tell people, hey, what's your bank account look like? How are you doing? For real. How are you doing for real? Because this is a business, and if you're not doing it right, you can get your butt handed to you, and then you can fall out of the business. And I think that that's a mistake that I will never make again.
Yeah.
Is not being real explicit with people. I need you to tell me if your bank account's not okay.
Right. And staying approachable, and then just, staying approachable and not being afraid to have difficult conversations.
Yeah.
But you do such a good job on the front end that the people that are coming in, I think the thing people overlook in the business, and I've always struggled with ways to say it, but you need to learn to go where you're not needed. The people that are actually out there killing it without you are the ones where you should actually spend the most time and make sure you have an open line of communication, because they're the ones most likely to have struggles and not say nothing.
Yep.
Where your influence and your expertise can actually help.
Yeah, and when I say, hey, when it's a little problem, I can fix it. When it's a big problem, the likelihood of me being able to fix it is not very big. Like,
I love that.
Yeah, little problem, we can fix it. Big problem, harder to fix.
You're such a good communicator. Jeez, this is. I feel like I need to be taking notes.
Trey, you're gonna make a brown girl blush.
Man, no. I mean, this is like I need to hear this. Like, we should just start this over, have you interview me, and holy cow. So good job, Cassandra. So if somebody wanted to work with you, which I imagine there's plenty of people that do, maybe they came from the fitness background or sales or whatever, you just kind of like Cassandra's style, like how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'll work with anybody from any walk of life. I don't care if you work as a janitor, you want to change your profession. I don't care if you're a bartender, trainer, anything. I'll work with you. If you just want to learn, you're a hustler, I'll teach you to do what I did, because I have zero experience previous to this. So you can reach me. This is my personal phone number. Only business, please.
Only business.
Only business. 937-205-4983. And you can also follow me on Instagram. It's Cass Carter, CASSCARD as in dog, ER. My Facebook is Cassandra Carter. Good email is cassandracarter@gmail.com. That's pretty much it.
Great. Well, I'm excited. This has been a really good. One more thing.
One more thing. My agency is FFL Longevity, and you can follow us on Instagram and on Facebook too.
That's your agency?
FFL Longevity, yeah.
That's a really good agency name. Holy cow.
Yeah.
That's what's interesting. We have so many, like they said, logo factory. Like there's a logo all the time, and people come
Yeah.
up with these ingenious names. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So
And I just love it because I believe in like longevity, your health, business longevity, friendship longevity, everything. I want it to be long lasting and fruitful.
yeah. Well, that's the right word for it. And part of building the business really is that longevity approach in the relationship side of it. That's why I'm
Yes.
so enamored by how you approach it. It really is good. I'm not placating you
Good.
because we're starting out on a note where I know like you're in my corner. This is long term. You've been completely honest with me. I have the proper expectations. I'm not confused about anything. And what tends to happen is you still kind of have the same ratios, but the people that produce, they don't always produce right away. Some of your best ones will come back 6-7 months later. Mark my words, that happens. Some of your best ones come back a year later. Like I use this example a lot, but we started with Stephen E in 2015. He just didn't do anything until 2018. He started a little bit, went away, watched from a distance. 2018, he comes around, decides he really wants to come back and kill it.
Yeah.
So Grady Polson said in the Facebook group for a year watching, a year, Grady Polson. That means there's probably other Gradys in the Facebook group just watching.
Totally. That's why I never take anything personally when someone's like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, okay, got my number. Give me a call when you're ready. Completely open.
But then don't stop and go find the people that want to do it now.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not waiting for anybody. I'm going to build a very large business with or without you.
Amen. All right. Well, thanks for jumping on our podcast, everybody.